Hey everyone, I'm Mike from theparkprodigy.com, and on today's video, we're going to rank the best rides over in Magic Kingdom Park in Walt Disney World. And this park definitely has a special place in my heart, as I did spend time working as a Walt Disney World cast member at this park, selling tickets at really the quote unquote the front of Magic Kingdom Park, which is really the ticket and transportation center. I spent a ton of time talking about the rides within this park and helping families really pick the best fit ticket for their vacation. So I am excited for this video, and these videos are so fun and they're important for a couple different reasons. Of course, if you are planning a Walt Disney World trip and you're not as familiar with the Disney World rides, you're definitely going to want to check out this video as you get a little bit more comfortable and you figure out which rides are best for your kids. And then of course it's a fun video because ranking the rides is really subjective, right? So this is kind of the way that I see the best rides in Magic Kingdom Park, and you might be surprised of my top 3, of course, but that's kind of the fun, of creating videos like this. So if you are in the process of planning a Disney World trip, like I said, just be sure to stick around until the end of this video. As always, I'm very excited, so let's go get started. I'm going to jump right in because we have over 25 rides on the list, actually 26 to be exact, and we are going to start with 26, and we are going to start with the worst ride, quote unquote, at Magic Kingdom Park, and that, in my opinion, is going to be the Magic Carpets of Aladdin. And I have to be honest, I have actually never been on this ride, but that I think just goes to show you I've been going to Disney World for 35 years and I have never gone on this ride. This is a Dumbo style ride where guests ride on a flying carpet, and it is located in Adventureland. In my opinion, if I'm going to go on a ride like this, a Dumbo style ride, I might as well just go on Dumbo. But of course, I understand that, when you're going on the trips like this, you want to get as many rides in as possible. So no hate if you do like the Magic Carpets of Aladdin, but it's just not my thing. From a height requirement standpoint, though, one of the things that we do like about it is there are no height restrictions, no height requirement. And you'll see that's one of the other important things too, and the reason why Magic Kingdom Park is so popular when planning a Disney World trip. It's because it really does have the most for the very young kids to do. A lot of the rides at this park do not have height requirements, and that's something that we love and reason why this is a very important video. Jumping over to the thrill rating factor, from a thrill rating standpoint, again, just because you are being kind of lifted up into the air, we did give this a thrill rating of 2 out of 10. Moving over to number 25, and we do have the Hall of Presidents. Now, don't get me wrong, I do love history, and I think there's a nostalgia aspect to this ride. However, is it one of the, am I looking forward to going on this ride when I go to Magic Kingdom Park? Absolutely not. I think this is just one of those, attractions, quote unquote, because it's not really a ride, it's an attraction. This is an animatronic show featuring U.S. presidents. It's an educational and patriotic attraction. And so I think one of the other cool things that a lot of Disney fans enjoy as well is that Walt Disney was a history fan as well. And so this is kind of, one of the early, Disney quote unquote attractions that did come into the park. So the other cool thing from a height requirement standpoint, just like it sounds, there is no height restriction. However, good luck getting your kids to sit through an educational film within Disney. And then on a thrill rating factor, it's going to be a 0 out of 10. All right, over to number 24, and we do have Liberty Square River Boat. So this is another one that I don't hate this ride. I would just say that I personally I don't go into Magic Kingdom like looking forward to this ride, if that makes sense. So this is a leisurely boat ride around the rivers of America, and guests can enjoy views of Tom Sawyer Island and Frontierland while learning about American history from the narration. I think there is a charm to this ride. I also really enjoy the views of specifically Haunted Mansion, which we will talk about in a bit, from the riverboat as well. From a height requirement standpoint, again, no minimum height restrictions. This is another one of those, if you're going to Disney for like 7 or 8 days, and you're really on those days when you're kind of just a little tired and you're trying to just figure out hey, we just need a break, again, get out of the sun. We just want to maybe sit for a few. There's not a ton of seats, I will say that, but you want to get out of the sun. This is a great attraction to do that on. From a thrill rating standpoint, though, not very thrilling. It's going to be in at a 0 out of 10. Over to number 23, and we do have Prince Charming Regal Carousel. Now, I would say one of the most iconic things about this attraction is not even the attraction itself. It is the sword in the stone, right outside of the attraction. So be sure to keep an eye on that. It's a really, really great photo opportunity. It's a slow-paced ride suitable for all ages, and with that comes no minimum height requirement. for the carousel. From a thrill rating standpoint, though, we are going to keep this at a 1 out of 10. Okay, over to number 22, and I do have Walt Disney's Carousel of Progress. Now, I was torn by this this one because I did want to put this one a little bit higher, but you have to pick and choose your battles when doing rankings like this. So we do have it coming in at number 22, and this is a rotating theater showcasing the progress of technology throughout the 20th century. If you are traveling, with your parents, your grandparents, stuff like that, this was one of the original attractions that was in, I don't know the exact year, but it was in the New York World's Fair back in the 60s, right? So there's a nostalgia aspect here that goes back, even past millennials. So I do think that's really, really cool. And I do think it's something that your entire family would enjoy. From a height requirement standpoint, just like it sounds, there is no height requirement. From a thrill rating standpoint, we are going to give this a 0 out of 10. And we are on to the next ride. You have the Enchanted Tiki Room. And this is an audio animatronic show featuring singing birds, flowers, and tikis. It's a classic Disney attraction, best suited for those who enjoy entertaining and light-hearted shows. Just like it sounds, this is a little less entertaining than the Walt Disney's Carousel of Progress. However, I do think, from an audio standpoint, they both will pretty much be in your head all day, right? But I just think there's something that is so nostalgic about the tiki room. Like you can't go on that ride and not come off like smiling. From a height requirement standpoint, there is no height restrictions. From a thrill rating standpoint, we do have a 0 out of 10. Over to number 20, and we do have the Walt Disney World Railroad. So this is a classic steam-powered train that circles Magic Kingdom, making stops at Main Street, USA, Frontierland, and Fantasyland, and is suitable for all ages, and it does not have a height requirement. And then from a thrill rating standpoint, we did give this a 1 out of 10. Over to number 19, and we have Monsters, Inc. Laugh Floor. And this is really a fun one. This is an interactive comedy show in Tomorrowland featuring characters from the Pixar film Monsters, Inc. Now, guests become part of the comedy as their jokes and reactions contribute to the show. And that's one of the things that we really love about this show, is that it really is a different show every time you go to see it, so you can see it over and over, and you'll have a great time. From a height requirement standpoint, there are no height restrictions. From a thrill rating factor standpoint, we do have a 0 out of 10. Over to number 18, we have Tomorrowland Speedway. Now, guests control their own gas-powered cars on a track, and this is really, again, as a kid, this is probably going to be some of your earliest driving memories, right? So there's that aspect as well that I think is really, really fun and cool for the Tomorrowland Speedway. The other thing that I really, really enjoy is that if you do catch it at the right time at night, it does have some really, really great views of the fireworks. There is a minimum height requirement of 32 inches or taller to ride with an adult and 54 inches to ride alone. From a thrill rating factor, we are going to give this a 2 out of 10. Sticking with Tomorrowland, and we're going over to number 17, and we have the Astro Orbiter, which is a spinning rocket ride located in Tomorrowland. Like I said, guests board individual rockets and control the height of their spacecraft as they spin around a central structure. And one of the things you have to be careful about this ride is that the wait times can be out of control, and it's really because of kind of where the ride is located and how you get on it. I will also say, from a height requirement standpoint, there are no height restrictions, but children under 7 must be accompanied by a guest of 18 years or older. But children under 7 must be accompanied by a person who is 14 years or older. From a thrill rating standpoint, we only gave this a 3 out of 10, but I will say, if you are afraid of heights, if you have, be mindful of this ride, because not only are you going to be lifted, or can you lift yourself up in the air, but the ride also is kind of already up in the air. Okay, over to number 16, and this is kind of a love and hate relationship with this ride, and we have It's a Small World. So this is another ride that was kind of came out in the New York World's Fair, and this is a boat ride featuring dolls from around the world singing the iconic song. It's a classic and charming experience for guests of all ages. But the thing that I don't like about this ride is this ride always seems like a good idea when you're walking over to it. And it's like, oh, like, of course, we have to go on It's a Small World. But once you're on it, you're like, why did I do this? Because this song, talking about the Tiki Room song, will be in your head all day. This song will really be in your head, not even all day, all week. So just be mindful of that going into this ride. But from a height requirement standpoint, there are no height restrictions. And from a thrill rating factor standpoint, we do give this a 0 out of 10, not very thrilling. Over to number 15, and we do have the Mad Tea Party located right on the outskirts of Tomorrowland. So this is a spinning teacup style ride. So be prepared and be aware of that going into this ride. One of the cool things that I really enjoy about this ride is during the Mickey's Not So Scary and Mickey's Very Merry, they will do like, different kind of variations of this ride. It is specific for the party. From a height requirement standpoint, there are no height restrictions for the Mad Tea Party. From a thrill rating factor standpoint, we did give this a 4 out of 10. Over to number 14, one of the newer rides, I would say newer, but within the last 15 years at this point, and we do have Under the Sea Journey of the Little Mermaid. This is a dark ride that retells the story of Disney's The Little Mermaid. And so for a height requirement standpoint, we do have no minimum height requirement. And from a thrill rating standpoint, we do have a 1 out of 10 for The Little Mermaid. Over to number 13, this is another very charming ride in Fantasyland. We have the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. So this is a dark ride through the 100-acre wood with Winnie the Pooh. It's suitable for guests of all ages, especially fans of the classic characters. And fun fact, I actually just learned that this ride is actually based on a Winnie the Pooh movie from back in the day. So if you grew up watching Winnie the Pooh, definitely be sure to go check out this ride. I always find it funny when, especially now as I help families, because I did grow up, right? My grandparents would always play Winnie the Pooh for us. But when I help families now plan Disney vacations, a big topic of conversation that comes up is, of course, Disney dining and character dining. And we always recommend the Crystal Palace in Magic Kingdom. And they're always just like, yeah, but my kids don't know who any of these characters are. And I'm like, it's kind of crazy. But this is the world we live in. But don't sleep on Winnie the Pooh. I don't even know if I said this, but it doesn't have any height restrictions, no height requirements. From a thrill rating factor, we do have a 2 out of 10. Over to number 12, and we have the Barnstormer. This is a perfect kind of intro coaster for those really, really young kids. This is a junior roller coaster featuring Goofy as the Great Goofini. Height requirement standpoint, we do have 35 inches or taller. From a thrill rating standpoint, we do have 4 out of 10. Whole updated Fantasyland area where the Barnstormer is. I think Disney did a really good job, and it's just a really, really fun vibe. Over to number 11, sticking with that area, and we do have Dumbo the Flying Elephant. And from a nostalgia standpoint, I don't think it gets any more nostalgic than this. This is a classic spinner ride where guests ride in flying Dumbo elephants. It's a quintessential Disney experience, particularly enjoyable for younger kids. Now, height requirements, we don't have any height requirements for Dumbo from a thrill rating factor standpoint, just because you are being kind of lifted up in the air. We do have a thrill rating standpoint of 3 out of 10. Over to number 10, and this is a really fun ride, kind of like a game sort of situation. We have Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin. So this is an interactive ride where guests use laser guns to defeat targets and the evil Emperor Zurg. From a height requirement standpoint, we don't have any minimum height restrictions, and from a thrill rating standpoint, we do have a 2 out of 10. Over to number 9, and again, this is where I had to pick and choose my battles because some of the rides I had to keep a little lower, but some of the other rides were non-negotiable. They needed to be on our top 10, and this one is the Tomorrowland Transit Authority People Mover. Now, this is a leisurely elevated tram ride. It takes guests on a tour of Tomorrowland in Magic Kingdom Park. The People Mover provides a unique perspective of various Tomorrowland attractions, including Space Mountain, Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger, and more. A fan favorite amongst Disney fans and Florida locals. The line is typically a little bit shorter as well. And what I would say too is, like, this is in my top 10, but if you didn't really grow up going to Disney, you might go on this ride and be like, what are you even talking about now? Because that wasn't a ride. They were just essentially moving me around, quote unquote, the Transit Authority People Mover. From a height requirement standpoint, we don't have a height requirement. And then from a thrill rating factor, so we did give it a thrill rating factor of 110. Over to number 8, and this might be a lot higher than what people might have predicted, especially based on how popular this ride is on Disney Genie. But we do have Peter Pan's Flight, and this is a dark ride that takes guests on a magical journey through scenes from Peter Pan. It's a classic and popular attraction suitable for all ages, and this is typically one of the longest waits in the park, and again, typically one of the rides that sells out the quickest on the Disney Genie. So we do suggest kind of either typically using the Disney Genie or, quote unquote, if you're rope dropping, go and get this ride out of the way as early as possible. So from a height requirement standpoint, there are no height restrictions. From a thrill rating factor standpoint, just because you are kind of going to be, in the air a little bit, kind of giving the impression that you're flying, just like Peter Pan, we do have a thrill rating factor of 2 out of 10. All right, over to number 7, and we're jumping back over to Tomorrowland, and we have Space Mountain, which is a high-speed indoor roller coaster set in outer space. It's a thrilling experience in the dark, suitable for those who enjoy fast-paced rides. Now, I used to really love this ride. If I did this ranking, I would say about 10 years ago, this probably would have been a little bit higher. But for me personally, I don't like to get thrown around like this anymore. And Space Mountain, you definitely can come off of it and you're like, well, what just happened? But I do think this is a classic ride. Again, same thing here. During Mickey's Not So Scary, Mickey's Very Merry, there is it's a overlay. Disney calls it a ride overlay on Space Mountain, so that's really, really cool. From a height requirement standpoint, though, we do have a height requirement of 44 inches or taller. And from a thrill rating standpoint, we do have a thrill rating factor of an 8 out of 10 over in Magic Kingdom Park. Over to number 6, and this is a classic, another one of those songs that you probably won't be able to get out of your head all day, but with the movies it has become again so very, very popular, and that is Pirates of the Caribbean. And this is simply a boat ride through pirate infested waters. It's a classic Disney attraction suitable for families. And again, one of the other cool things is now with the popularity of the movies, we do have Jack Sparrow throughout this ride if you've never been on it. So that's something that you can go and enjoy. From a height requirement standpoint, we don't have any height restrictions for Pirates of the Caribbean. And we do have a thrill rating factor at a 3 out of 10, just because if you've been on this ride, it's kind of like a small little drop. It's very, very small, but we just want to make sure we get everyone prepared. So we have a thrill rating factor of 3 out of 10. Over to number 5, and we got the top 5 coming up. We do have Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, which is the wildest ride in the wilderness. So a thrilling mine train roller coaster set in the Old West. It's suitable for older kids and adults who enjoy moderate thrills. This is more thrilling than Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and we do have a minimum height requirement of 40 inches or taller. And from a thrill rating standpoint, we have a 6 out of 10. Now I'm looking at my notes and we actually have 2.5. I'm not going to try to confuse everyone with the numbers, but I do have another ride in here that we didn't number. And of course, if you're a classic Disney fan, and you probably are familiar with, in at number 5, Part B, we have Jungle Cruise. And Jungle Cruise allows guests to embark on a river cruise where dangerous beasts and dry wit are abound. So guests will board a boat and essentially steam past lush foliage, butterflies, and waterfalls on the Amazon in South America. And same thing, specifically during Christmas, this ride does have a Christmas overlay, which guests go crazy for. But from a thrill rating standpoint, we do have this ride coming in as a 2 out of 10. You will have to get onto an actual boat itself, so just keep that in mind. And then also from a minimum height requirement standpoint, there is no minimum height requirement at this point in time. Okay, in at number 4, and we have Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, which is a family-friendly roller coaster that swings and sways. It's suitable for a wide range of ages and offers a good mix of storytelling and coaster excitement. Another thing about this ride that I love is I do love the queue. I really think that Disney did a great job with the queue. And this also is going to be one of the longest waits in the park, so just be mindful of that. Same thing, if you're rope dropping or going really early in the morning, try to make this one of the first rides that you do go on. So from a height requirement standpoint for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, it is going to be at least 38 inches or taller. And then from a thrill rating factor standpoint, we do have a factor of 5 out of 10. Okay, so in at number 3, and again, it's important for me to note that this is my top 3, but I do think I'm pretty accurate from a Disney getting you in, the magic standpoint. So in number 3, we have Mickey's PhilHar Magic. Now this is a 3D show featuring Mickey Mouse and other Disney characters. This is a one-of-a-kind attraction, and like I said, personally one of my favorites, and a great way to cool down on a hot Florida day. But also, I just think that this attraction does such a great job of bringing you, into the Disney magic. Some of the most iconic scenes from some of the classic Disney films. When I flew out to Disneyland in California, this was the first ride I went on in Disneyland, and that was a 6-hour flight to essentially go on this ride. So I do love this ride this much, and that's why it's in the top 3. From a height requirement standpoint, there are no minimum height requirements. From a thrill ratings factor standpoint, though, it's not very thrilling, it's more charming. So from a charming rating standpoint, we give this a 10 out of 10. From a thrill rating factor standpoint, we're giving it a 0 out of 10. But that is in at number 3. In at number 2, and again, if you know me, this might come as no surprise, we do have the Haunted Mansion. Now, this is a dark ride through a haunted estate featuring ghosts and ghouls. It's a spooky but family-friendly attraction that is simply a classic. Another one of the things I love is, of course, yes, this comes from Disneyland, so this was one of the, quote-unquote attractions that, Walt did have somewhat of a, impression on, so I do think that's a very, very cool aspect as well. But just everything about this ride from a nostalgia standpoint, when you take your kids on this ride, and especially if this is one of the first scary things that they do, they'll never forget that. I don't think you really will ever forget going on this ride. When I would go with my family, I would just sit on this ride for hours. Like I will never get tired of this ride. And again, that's why this is just my ranking. But I do think from a classic Disney standpoint, this is up there. It had to be up there. And it is in at number 2. From a height requirement standpoint, we don't have any height requirements. And then from a thrill rating factor standpoint, just because there are certain parts of this ride that will be, dark or spooky, quote unquote, we did give it a thrill rating factor of a 3. And so coming in at number 1, as you probably guessed, we do have the brand new Tron Light Cycle Run. And now this is an outdoor roller coaster attraction themed around Disney's Tron franchise. Guests board futuristic light cycles and race through high-tech digital landscape. The ride utilizes a unique ride system, placing guests in prone positions on light cycle vehicles. This ride does not have a regular standby queue, which is really, really important to keep in mind. At the time of the recording of this video, it is being still run through a virtual queue, or you can, of course, upgrade and go with an individual lightning lane. Now, I will say there's a lot of controversy about this ride online. Is it worth, it took Disney like 7 years to build this ride. So I think that's one of the things that people have an issue with. And it's like, well, we waited 7 years. Like, is it better than Guardians of the Galaxy, which is over in Epcot? In my honest opinion, no, it's not. But it is the best ride in Magic Kingdom. They did do a very good job. From a height requirement standpoint, we do have a minimum height requirement of 48 inches or taller. And from a thrill rating standpoint, we do have a thrill rating factor of a 9 out of 10. But that is the list, everyone. Those are the best rides, ranking the best rides in Magic Kingdom Park. Let us know in the comment section. Tell me what your top 3, what your top 5 rides at Magic Kingdom Park are. And of course, like I said, if you are in the process of planning a Disney World trip, and as a thank you for sticking all the way till the end of this video, I do have a special promo code that you can go and use on our website, theparkprodigy.com, to buy some discounted Disney World tickets or book a discounted Disney vacation package. And that promo code is going to be YouTube25. But I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you all again so much for checking out this video. And until next time, I will talk to you soon.